Hi guys, welcome to the We Are Stronger Together panel. This is day 3 of Camp Breasties, and I'm your moderator for the panel, Kellie Goss, also known on IG as Brown Girl and BRCA Plus. I'm a BRCA1 Previvor and one of the ambassadors for the Atlanta chapter. Thank you all so much for joining us today. So just want all of us to take a collective breath, breathe a collective sigh. Since mid-March, many of us have been walking around in a fog and having to deal with the unknowns of a global pandemic and job loss, financial instability and insecurity, and navigating what we now know as the new normal of gloves and face masks and social distancing. And we've had to isolate ourselves from our friends and family, and we've now all had an overdose of Zoom calls. And it's all been heavy, and it's all been very overwhelming. So you top all of that off, and now we're faced with an awakening in our country like we've never seen before. And many of us are finding our voice for the first time. And some of us are really beginning to fully understand the limitations that are placed on others simply because of the color of their skin. We see a population of our society struggling to be seen and to be heard. And we also see people that are willing to listen and to understand. Both of those sides, both sides require work. So thank you to all of you who are showing up today for being willing to listen, being willing to see yourself through someone else's eyes, and most importantly, willing to do the work. And thank you especially to the Breasties for allowing us this moment and being a part of the movement. So with that being said, let's get to it. I am honored this afternoon to share this virtual stage with an amazing group of women for this very important discussion. Trish, Roshni, Shirley, Angie, and Harper-Grace, thank you ladies so much for sharing your time and your energy with us this afternoon. We love you for always showing up. We love you for always showing out, and we know that today will be no different. So please show these ladies some love in the comments. I'd like to give you ladies an opportunity to introduce yourselves. And so before we do that, I want you all to know, those Breasties that are looking online, you're able to share your questions and answers in the comments section or the Q&A box. And so certainly feel free to do that. If you have any questions to ask this amazing panel, feel free to reach out in that way. So let's get started. Trish, we'll start with you.
Thanks so much, Kellie. So I'm Trish, Gauthier. Everyone knows social media, Trish _ New York City. I was diagnosed in 2016 at 37. I found it myself. I found it and had to push for a diagnosis. I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, originally stage 1, and with surgery of stage 3. I've had a mastectomy, I've had chemo, radiation. I did move on for a while, and then after I decided to have the hysterectomy. And so I'm trying to navigate all of that. I'm on year 2 of aromatase inhibitors. It's quite difficult, but the Breasties has, really come through for me in the time that I needed. So I am pleased to serve as a New York ambassador. And like I like to say that, like, inclusivity and equity in the cancer fan is my jam. So.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Roshni Kamta. On IG I'm Roshni, and I was diagnosed at 22 with triple negative breast cancer. I also had to fight my way to get my additional testing because I was so young, and that doctors were kind of shocked to see someone so young being diagnosed. I was diagnosed in April of 2019. I started chemo in May. I did fertility treatment, I did radiation, and along the way I felt, alone because I'm younger than the average person to be diagnosed. And I'm also Indo-Caribbean, and so it's harder to find someone that looks like me. but I appreciate the Breasties having this discussion and being a part of this community and finding other women like Angie to relate to and talk to more about being Indian and what it means to, you know, have a cancer diagnosis.
Thanks, Roshni. Shirley?
Hey Breasties, I'm Shirley Pattan. On Instagram, I'm Shirley You're Kidding, because sometimes I feel like that's my life. I was diagnosed in 2017 with stage 3C ovarian cancer. I was 40 years old, which is pretty young for an ovarian cancer diagnosis. Not a lot of support in my community. I helped try to start a community support group at our local cancer center. I am one of those people who doesn't have an issue with access to care, but I didn't find a community of people who had ovarian cancer that I could really speak to and who could understand, that weren't a few decades older than I was. Just before 2019 recurrence and metastatic diagnosis of ovarian cancer, I found the Breasties and started to really be able to identify with other people. Initially didn't feel like maybe I would fit because I was an ovarian cancer person and not a Breastie. But one thing that's really continued to bring me back to the Breasties is their desire and real, true way of trying to be able to be there for all of us, wherever we are, whoever we are. And so I'm now working to start off or kick off the North Florida Breasties group as an ambassador. So I'm excited to be here and be part of this conversation and see where I can continue to elevate all women within the Breasties community.
Thank you, Shirley. Angie?
Hi, I'm Angie. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey. I'm a mom of 4. I'm of Indian descent, but I was born in the US, but raised in the Philippines. Moved back when I was 14 in time for high school. So I always had a feeling something was wrong and fought for genetic testing. After 2 years of fighting, I was given the test and found out I was BRCA2 positive. I had to have an emergency oophorectomy after, due to my CA-125 levels being 15 to 20 times above the average woman, and then had a double mastectomy right after that. I found the Breasties 3 years ago when I was really struggling with being a mom, with going through surgeries, with slight depression, just trying to navigate like what to do and the cultural stigma. And my experiences has made me realize that we need to really increase awareness and about genetic testing. Being a mom is the greatest joy of my life, and I'm hopeful that we're able to remove the cultural stigma associated with breast cancer in my community so that my children feel welcome and empowered to stand up and speak up when they get older.
Thanks, Angie. Hi, Harper-Grace.
Hi, I'm Harper-Grace. My pronouns are she, hers, and I was diagnosed with stage 3, grade 3 hormone positive cancer at twins. So in January 2018, did the fertility preservation, 16 rounds of chemo, bilateral mastectomy, did not have to do sometime in there I found the Breasties. I have zero clue when that was. I just know I found them and it felt like home. So I decided that I was going to start the Alabama chapter of the Breasties. From chemotherapy, I actually went deaf. So I lost 5% hearing. So I on this panel as someone who is fighting for disability, accessibility, and inclusion, as well as a health at every size perspective.
Thanks, Harper-Grace. We appreciate all of you ladies weighing in again for showing up this afternoon. So we know that the Breasties, they strive on inclusion, and they want to make sure that everybody's included and involved. And, you know, we talk about just the different ranges of that, and how even Shirley mentioned that, you know, because she didn't have breast cancer, she thought that maybe this group didn't feel like it was the right fit for her initially. So what was it about this group that made you feel like you can be an active and welcome part of it? Angie, do you want to share?
Sure. I found the Breasties 3 years ago, right as I was planning to have a double mastectomy. And I signed up for the retreat, and I was scared and nervous, and I went ahead and went. And for the first time in a really long time, I sat in a room with women who just understood. They knew what I was going through. They knew how I felt. They didn't judge me. They didn't look down at my choices or my decisions. They just listened. And they, for the first time, I didn't have like an echo of everything I was saying. Everyone listened. Everyone heard me. They cried with me. And I felt like refreshed when I left. And I felt like a brand new me. And that was when I realized that you need to find women who understand you to feel whole again, because you're so broken when you go through this, and you feel so just like you go from 100 to 0 so quickly, that all these women help really bring me back up and help me stand up again.
I love that you guys talked. I love that you guys talked about the cultural differences, because I think that that's one of the things that allowed me or prompted me to step out of the shadows. And certainly not speaking for all Black people as a culture, but I really feel like we are private in a lot of ways, and many times is what goes on in this house stays in this house. We don't tell anybody our business, and this is just the way it is. So so it causes an almost cultural shift, because you've been taught this for most of your life. So Trish, you're very open about your journey. What caused you to step out of the shadows?
Well, it's funny you say that, because like it's a fight. It was a fight. It is a fight. I'm fighting a lot of fronts right now. My family, my parents are not supportive of me being open, and quite frankly, I think I could be even more open. Like being left-handed was stigmatized, and being red-haired was stigmatized. Like, I didn't do anything to cause cancer to come into my life. And even if I did, you have to live for yourself. So keeping it bottled up was just so difficult for me, because I found the Breasties when I was doing, like, as we all do, our midnight 2 a.m. Googling. And I did a hashtag search, and that's how I found Paige. And it was just so frustrating to keep it inside that I kind of like dipped my toe in and reached out to them. And it makes a major difference, because they want you to heal, they want you to move on, but you have all these emotions and feelings that no one else around you gets. So it's critical in my like treatment. I feel like, I think it's as important as the aromatase that I'm taking is also finding this community, and it's helped in ways that I can't explain.
So thanks for sharing, Trish. So Harper-Grace, I know that your journey has been an interesting one as well. And I know that you are definitely trying to make sure that we are inclusive, as well as taking into account accessibility when we use social media and when we discuss amongst ourselves. Talk to us about that a little bit more, so that more of us can get it, and more of us can understand it, and more of us can apply it.
So this is an interesting concept, right? So I am very humble about the fact that people don't understand what disability accommodations look like until you experience a disability. And I also want you to hear me say that using the word disabled is not bad. Like, I would prefer you use the word disabled than differently abled. So when you are planning meetups, it would be best to think about, if I was in a wheelchair, could I participate? If I was weak and had neuropathy from chemotherapy, could I participate in this yoga class or this Zumba class? What are the acoustics like in the room? Because someone who has hearing disability, if the acoustics are bad, likely they can't hear anything. It becomes really overwhelming, and then they can't participate. And so for people with low vision, when you post something on social media, even thinking about putting a little caption at the bottom as to explaining what the picture is of, because some people can't see pictures. Or another little good tip for people with low vision is, if you squint your eyes, and if the colors run together and you can't see the image, likely it's likely that the person cannot see the image. So you should probably switch to a darker background with lighter coloring for wording than a lighter background with dark coloring. That's just a good tip.
Thanks, Harper-Grace. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I hope that that's useful also to the other Breasties that are listening, and so that we begin to take that account when we're socializing with one another. So, Roshni, I had a quick question for you. So, you managed to go through your experience when you were a lot younger than your peers, or when it typically affects other people. How was that navigating that? Number one, being a person of color, and number one, being much younger than your peer group. How are you able to navigate, and what can you share with others that may be going through the same experience?
Yeah, so when I was diagnosed, felt very alone, like a lot of women that are talking on this panel. So I bit the bullet, and I posted on my Instagram that I'm 22 and diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. And I got a flood of DMs from people shocked and everything. And I wanted it to be a way that I can own my own story. Because as Angie said, in the Indian community, it's very stigmatized. I don't know why I'm getting upset. It's very stigmatized, and I didn't want a brown auntie to say oh, what did she do to get cancer? It has to be something that she did, and that I felt self-blame for myself. And sorry.
It's okay.
And so I wanted to also speak out for other younger women that are diagnosed with breast cancer, and be that voice for them and other women of color, especially Black women, because I wanted them to know that they have every right to, be in this community, also have every right to access to healthcare. And I just wanted to be that person that people can look to be okay, I can also speak up about my health concerns, because I dealt with that a lot in the beginning. My OB/GYN didn't believe my symptoms, and she tried to delay my treatment. And so I want other women to know that speak up for yourself, be your own advocate. You have to at times, and it's really hard mentally, it's draining, but at the end, after I did that for myself, I felt very liberated. I felt okay, if I can own up and speak up for my health, I could do other things. Yeah.
I love that you said that, because I think that I think that may speak to us all, because coming out of the shadows, you do find your strength, right? You feel like you have the wind at your back, and I can do anything, and it kind of becomes bigger than you. And I know that for myself, I've had to step out of my comfort zone, and I'm typically kind of quiet, and and I go from being quiet to now everybody's seeing my breast, and it's just the whole thing. And so, Shirley, talk to us about that a little more. Talk to us about how you've used your voice to further the cause, and if there's anything that you want to share that could help somebody else along the line.
I think, for me, it was first finding other women with ovarian cancer. I think, I had very little family history. I actually am also BRCA1 positive, and before my diagnosis, we really didn't have any hints of that within our family, so when I started connecting with people on social media, I felt a little bit like, is this how I'm supposed to connect with people now? It was just really weird. I really didn't, I think I hadn't used Instagram in a year before I started looking for other people who I could connect with, and I don't know, I wanted to start figuring out, one, to bring more awareness. I thought that every time I went, I was very diligent with my gynecological appointments and my preventative health. It was never an issue for me, to be able to access that. And I thought, well, what would happen if we were having more conversations? Like, if I knew when I was going to those gynecological appointments every year that I should be looking at something like ovarian cancer. I had no idea. And I considered myself, pretty knowledgeable in that way. But I had no idea that I wasn't being screened or nothing was being looked into, and when I found out I was also BRCA1 positive, I have 4 siblings. They, and I encourage them, please get tested. Everybody has their own ideas of, whether they want to know or not. Some people, they don't. And, I encouraged my siblings to get tested. And we found out that 2 of my other siblings were also BRCA positive. I went through preventative breast surgery, obviously, because I'd already had everything else, in relation to ovarian cancer. And my sisters went through the preventative surgeries. And one of them, both came out with flying colors. The doctors were like, everything looks good. And one of them already had stage 1 ovarian cancer when through her preventative surgery. So it's things like that I wanted to start reaching out and making people just more aware. And then also using my voice to help others who maybe don't feel, especially because a lot of ovarian cancer women are older, trying to help them connect with other women, because not a lot of older women do social media or are as involved in social media, so, and then the other part of it is just, I'm a therapist by trade. Obviously, I, work with varying levels of people from all different backgrounds. But one of the specialties that I have is working with the LGBT community. And that was another part of, being in the Breasties and thinking about the population of people that, in different areas don't feel comfortable about speaking out about different things about their lives. And that's one thing that I have really found. I keep throwing new things at the Breasties, I guess, in terms of my own background. And I still feel like no matter what I throw at them, they reflect back and say, okay, we see you, we hear you, we're here for you. And I just want to further that mission, especially in light of what's going on in our world, and particularly for people of color. And really try to continue to support everyone feeling like they're seen and heard in all areas of their life, not just within the Breasties.
That's really important, Shirley, and I really appreciate you saying that. And I feel that because especially now with everything that's going on, you do want to feel like people are seeing you and hearing you and they understand. And I think it's necessary for us to dialogue about that today. I think it's necessary for us to talk about that and talk through that, because I think that maybe through our voices, people will be able to navigate through this space. Because like I mentioned to you earlier, it's heavy, right? Because we don't really know, this is different. And I guess that's my first question, is that George Floyd certainly and sadly isn't the first Black male to be harmed. So why do you think this discussion now, why do you think that it's picking up steam more now in this season? Why do you think more people are getting actively involved and engaged? What's different about this? I'll let you guys decide who wants to answer that.
I'll take it, I guess. I think sometimes it could be just timing. I mean, to me personally,
and I've said this a couple times, we've unfortunately seen so many videos of people losing their life in a struggle with police. But to me, what I can't get out of my head was the cavalier way in which the officer had his hand in the pockets while his knee was on George Floyd's neck. It was just too, because the powerlessness that he must have felt, that George must have felt. And with people not working, with Corona, that you see that it doesn't matter if you're wealthy, if you're living paycheck to paycheck. We all have to, it sounds trite, but we have to be in this together because each person is important. It shouldn't be that because, let's say, not me, but let's say I'm a Medicaid patient. Why should my care be different from someone who has private insurance? Why do I have to pay out of pocket so much more versus someone who doesn't? Why do I have to get the cheap medication versus someone else who has the brand name? It's just, people have had, it's enough, and so I say this again and again, if not now, then when? Because it's all crumbling now. So there has to be some changes. We're all affected by it. We all fought just to live. Chemo, or if you're BRCA, or what, you're fighting to live, but what are you living for if this is what society is? That's my opinion anyway.
No.
Yep.
I appreciate that. Does anybody else want to weigh in?
I mean, I think right now we really need the support of non-minorities to really be empathetic, to really put themselves in our shoes, because when I saw that video, the first thing I thought of is my son walks around with a hoodie and is a tall brown kid. He's a tall boy who is 10 years old, but looks like he's 14, and he walks around at night. And it's scary as a mom. It's scary to even have to wonder, or even to have to think these things, or even to have to talk to my child about this, or tell my 6-year-old son the other day that if someone ever asks you something, you just say, don't say anything, and you wait till they call mom and dad, and you just be quiet, because you shouldn't. I mean, and if we don't get people who are non-minorities to stand with us, we'll never be able to bridge the gap. We need their support. We need them to understand what we're going through and really help us, bridge that gap.
Yeah. To both Trish and Angie's point, we do, there's a lot of work. It's not just racism, as Trish said on Thursday, goes even deeper. It's within our different systems. It's within our police system, our prison system, our healthcare system. It runs deep. So as everyone is reading and taking the time to educate themselves, understand that there are other ways that racism comes into lives of Black people and non-Black people of color. Trish said this on Thursday, and I really appreciate her talking about this, is that you assimilate and you shove things down, and you shove it because you want to appear as white as you can. And to a certain point, sometimes you just lose yourself while doing that. And then you start to question yourself and be like, who did I become? So I guess what I want to say is just, as everyone is reading and educating themselves, understand that you're going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to be uncomfortable for a long time, but that's the work that we need to do in order for, these systems to work for everyone. It's not just one and done. It's going to be, Sorry, Angie. No, you go.
No, and that's how we all feel, right? In certain places, we feel uncomfortable. We are put in that position more often than anybody else. We are uncomfortable a good amount of the time. When we walk into Sloan and we are the only person of color sitting in the room, we also feel uncomfortable. That's just what we go through on a very daily basis.
Well, as a of privilege, I cannot understand it is the of in But what I do and what is in my wheelhouse to talk about is the health disparities in the African American community, especially when it comes to breast cancer. We know that there are a lot more African Americans who are diagnosed with breast cancer and who die because of breast cancer. We've seen that also in COVID. And part of the reason is because a lot of healthcare providers, the first thing they say to, especially women of color, when they walk into a doctor's is you need to lose weight. And it has nothing to do with whatever symptom they come into the doctor about. Usually has to do with you're overweight, you're obese, you lose weight. Whereas culturally in the African American community, larger body is normal. And that's, we as a society have in this idea that thin equals being healthy, but I have to tell that being thin does not equal being healthy. I've been extremely thin and healthy, and when I live in a large body, I'm more healthy than when I am living in a smaller body. So I think part of what we help our system understand that this phobia we have a society has a lot of health in the within the STEM. And what would it look if we went into the doctor's office and instead of the first someone hearing when I have, you know, the lower breast, well, because you're or probably because you know, have a high check or what. It's not correlated, but there's and there's a lot of research on that. So I just think we need to overall health disparity, that phobia, and all of that to help our people of color in our city so that we don't have a of people die from breast cancer that don't.
So thank you, Harper. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I think that one of the things that you touched on, and I'm not certain that just to reiterate that that point is that although women of color get breast cancer less, they are in fact dying more. And a lot of that goes back to what you all were talking about earlier in terms of the quality of care and the type of care and whether they're even able to get the care or not. I know that a lot of households of people of color are single parent households. And we've seen this ourselves, and even just dealing with COVID, is that people, because of the healthcare system, people have to work sick. And so a lot of times mothers are in a position to, do I go to work to feed my family, or do I take care of myself? And many of us that are here that are mothers, we know that a lot of times we put others before ourselves. And so a lot of that has to be considered as well when taken into account just kind of why systemically that has been the problem. And I think it definitely needs to be flushed out by people in positions of power, people that are able to make decisions. And I don't think a lot of that has been done. And I think that, or I hope that in the months, weeks, and years to come, that there can be a lot of heavy lifting that really turns the tide on that, because I think that that is certainly an important factor to consider. So I wanted to ask you guys also, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roshni.
No, I think, oh, sorry.
No, I wasn't.
No, I was just
agreeing.
going to say, yeah. But I was going to say, we really do need like more minorities in leadership, so we feel comfortable and represented and that don't feel scared to speak up. It really helps with cultural stigma too. Like, things will only change when we are brave enough to speak up and show other minorities that there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I feel like until we have more people in leadership, we're really silenced.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say, Kellie, that, like, you know, I have private insurance. I have support of family. But even to get diagnosis, like, okay, I found a lump. Who's going to take the day off from work? Am I going to take the day? Okay, I got to take a day off. Is it a half day? Is it a full day? I have to dedicate an entire day. Where's the doctor's office? How far do I need to get to the doctor's office? It's a whole, from calculating that something may be wrong to actually getting to in front of the doctor is a whole journey in itself. And then when you get there, you know, sometimes right at the door, you feel, I've said the word before, like put upon, like, you can't get an appointment at the end of the day. Okay, now you have to get another appointment to get the scan, and that's another day off. It's so difficult sometimes, you know, that's the challenge in itself, is getting the diagnosis. And then when you do, there are studies that say that they tend to think that Black women are like, we're supposed to be super tolerant of pain. So are you like just here because you need some narcotic? Like, what is your real need here? You know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And I can say for myself that I had to have strong words with my physician, because he said, no, it's not. I said, Doc, I had to put my hand over his hand and say, this is it. So it was a fight from beginning to end. And it's still a fight. And so I'm seeing it, and it's happening a lot with my sisters, my fellow Black girls, that it's a fight. And not everyone
fighting cancer isn't. Yeah.
Fight. I mean, look, for the days that I couldn't fight, thank God I had a strong Black mother who would fight for me. And so sometimes I would be like the daughter and just lean back, because I know my mom would come there ready for action. And thank God, because, you know.
Yeah, because it's tiring to fight for yourself. And sometimes you're just like, the anxiety sets in of like, how much more do I have to fight? And then sometimes you don't even want to make those phone calls of like calling your insurance company, calling your doctor's office, because it gets to be a lot. And I like, sometimes I would delay calling my insurance company because I just had so much anxiety because I didn't want to, you know, fight someone on it. I'm not like a very vocal person. I can't even order dinner sometimes because it's like, but like, it's tiring. It's like, when does it stop? I think like maybe like if we had more patient advocates with it, like in medical rooms, like with doctors, like it could be, I don't know, like a safety net, not a safety net, but just someone else that can like speak up for you when the patient is just trying to be a patient and go through treatment.
Roshni, you tell me and I'll come sit with you and I'll fight for you.
Yeah, I mean, like to Trish's point, I have a brown mom that, you know, she's very loud, and she was a fighter for me sometimes. My cousin who's watching right now, she, as soon as the doctor said to me, like, you're diagnosed with cancer, she got up and she was like, this is what we're gonna do, and she was like fighting for me. Like, so you need people to like, sometimes when people ask you like, how can I help? Sometimes that's like the help that you need. You need someone to make a phone call for you. You need someone to fill out a letter. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that.
If fighting cancer isn't like difficult in itself, then you add on the difficulties like minorities have when it comes to healthcare or cultural issues, or like the list goes on and on. It's already difficult in itself. And then you add this like long list of other things that we all have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the OB/GYN that I saw, I told her that there was blood in my bra. That's initially why I went. I felt a lump before, but because I'm younger, I didn't think anything of it. And when I went to go see her, I said, there's blood in my bra, and I showed her a picture of the blood. And then she looked at me like she still didn't believe me. She touched my boob, and, you know, the blood came out. And she was like, oh, there's really blood there. I'm like, yeah, this is not a Photoshop thing. Like, there's actually blood coming out of there. It's frustrating. It's like, when does it end? When do we just have to like, when can we just like sit back and be a patient? Like, why is it that we have to also do the job of being an advocate for ourselves too?
Do you all feel like sometimes that you have to over explain, or you have to over be and overdo just to be considered equal in a room? Does anybody else experience that as a person of color?
My husband told me once, he said, anytime you call, exaggerate what you feel, because then you will get a call back. And it's the truth. If you exaggerate a little bit more of when you call the doctor, you will get a call back faster. And you just do what you have to do, I feel like, in these situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's funny because in IRL, in real life, you have to do more in order to get the bare minimum. As a Black person, you feel like you have to do all this. But in the breast cancer circles and support circles, you feel like you have to kind of shrink, because you don't want to you don't want to take up too much space, or make the discomfort to just get in there is like stressful. And then when you're there, it takes, I don't want to say it takes a special person, but I mean, you have to have some stick-to-itiveness sometimes, because even if everyone is well-meaning and kind, there's still just something in the air. I'm sure Rosh and Angie can say it. Or anyone else. It's just a feeling. And you just have to push past the feeling. And luckily for us, we did. You too, Kellie, I'm sure you can say, and the gifts that it's given us, it's been well worth it.
Yeah.
But still, it's a major hurdle when you first get in there that I'm sure anybody can speak on.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
want to say too much. Yeah. You go ahead.
No, let me hear you.
No, I said sometimes you just stay quiet even though you have an opinion, just because you're already lucky to be there, and you feel this I've been accepted. So now that I'm accepted, I should just stay on the good side, just don't say too much. Just don't, if I'm thinking something, like someone says they're having difficulty having children, I don't even say I have children. I just be quiet, because I'm lucky I didn't get breast cancer, and okay, you had to have an oophorectomy, but you have 4 children, so you're okay. So you just end up sometimes even just being quiet, because you don't want to say anything that's going to offend anyone or scare anyone, or that you might not feel welcome back the next time.
Well, I have to say that kind of goes the same for people with disabilities. We don't like to take up space either. And I can speak from my own experience. Even going to the ambassador retreat, I felt like I was taking up space and taking up, I was a problem, because accessibility was not a function there. And that was not on the part of Paige and Bree and Allie and Jess, because they just didn't think about it. But that's also a thing that we feel as the disabled community. We're lucky to be here, and we don't want to take up energy and space, but we also deserve to be treated as equals, just like everyone else. So that's my 2 cents.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So as someone who's white and has, white privilege, I know from just obviously just training and, living with my children who are African American, I have to speak up in ways that a lot of other privileged white people don't. And I want to speak up. And one thing I know, and I've learned over the years, especially right now, is it's not up to minorities to teach us what to do. We've got to get it together, and we've got to figure out how to help people of color and people, and that doesn't just limit, not discounting disability at this place, but, in the current climate that we're in, learning how do we figure out, I think for myself, I'm educating. I've always been someone who reads. I took classes when I was in college and through my master's degree to try to be someone who is an ally and promote the needs and the systemic injustice, and, you know, resolving some of that. But for us as breasties, you know, do we need to do things differently within our meetups? Do we need to do things differently within our organization? Just, you know, on smaller levels, to welcome and to broaden the access to our events, but also to help our other breasties access the things that they need within the healthcare system, and help be advocates in that way. Again, not looking for anyone to teach us, but also asking, how do we promote those specific things within our own community?
I think of that as certainly a valid question, and definitely requires some heavy lifting on the part of the people that are not people of color. But Trish, I'd like to hear your thoughts, please. What would an effective ally look like to you? What would that mean? What would that look like?
I said it like yesterday, but you have to have skin in the game. You have to be willing to lose, because as I said, if we're working twice as hard to get almost as close to you, a white woman, let's say, is, that means if we're running the same race, you have to slow down and let me catch up. If you're sitting in a boardroom and there's decisions that's being made, maybe you just sit back and say, I would like to pass the mic to Trish, because I'm sitting there thinking like, I'm the only Black person. I might have a suggestion, but I don't want to, you know, am I willing to take that? First of all, are they going to notice me? And if they do I want to run the risk of saying something that may not be received well? So I'm going through all these thoughts. You're sitting there, you should say, I'd like to hear what Trish has to say. It costs you nothing, but it can make the biggest difference to that Black girl that's sitting in the room. There's a position that's opened in your business, and they're thinking about different candidates. You have maybe 4 or 5, 6, whatever Black people that you know that would be perfect for the position. You advocate for them. You push to them for that. You tell your boss, I know someone perfect for it. These are small but major ways, because we're not in those circles. So we would probably never even know about some positions. Don't even go into the listings. It's all like backdoor conversations by the water cooler. So that means it's on you to think. You have to constantly, every day, like I said, it's a choose your adventure. You have to constantly think, how can I assist my fellow Black girl, Black man in this endeavor? And do it. Maybe you pass up a promotion because that person, it's time for them. It's difficult because it really requires sacrifice, but it helps quite a bit, because I know, like I said, breasties that, you know, are thinking, I've got many messages from breasties that are unsure whether or not they should join because it's not really for them. But they'll say like, oh, I saw Angie on the Insta, or I saw Rosh, or I saw you, Trish. And so that gave them a little bit of a safe space to just take a chance. So it's a lot of work, but you have to do it. You have to get the Black breasties in. You have to tell your doctor, here's some flyers. You have to go to your local places. There's a lot. I have a lot of suggestions, but the main thing is that you have to have some skin in the game.
But I wanted to add too that I know that as a white woman, it probably is unsure footing and uncertain, because now, like I said, this seems different, right? Because all of this has been happening, but this is now different. There's a shift, there's a change. And a lot of us have to figure out which side of history we want to be on, right? And so a lot of that comes with unlearning a lot of the things that we've been taught, right? That comes with us having to kind of check Uncle John at the Thanksgiving table, or tell our coworker that the off-scattered joke that wasn't the right type of joke. I mean, so a lot of that is us really unlearning a lot of what we've been taught. And that is hard. That's not easy. And you may not get it right. And I know a lot of times in the Black community will be like, oh, they tried it and they failed. It was a major fail. But I think that we also have to give credit to those people that are actually trying, because even if you make one step, that's one step in the right direction. So as white people, I would challenge you not to be thin-skinned, I would challenge you, the uncomfortable feeling that you feel, that's the feeling that we feel on a regular basis, that feeling of, am I getting it right? Am I doing enough? And even when I mess up, you know, but I still have to wake up every morning. Even when I know that I roll out of bed, I know that I would be considered less than for doing more. I still have to wake up. I still have to get it done. I still have to provide. I still have to push forward. And that's kind of where you are in this experience. So as a white person, it may not be easy, but it's necessary, because we personally, I don't feel that. And I know that a lot of people feel this way, that we can't get it done without you. And so the best way is for us to figure out how we can do it together. So thanks for that, Shirley. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for being willing to direct, and you know, when you shouldn't have to, you know, but it does help, you know, for us to know, I think, where we can make a difference and how to do it together.
Yeah. Yep.
And it really starts with like difficult conversations like we're having today, you know, and by having this kind of communication open and where everybody can say what they feel, these things really make a difference. And if the Breasties can do it and other organizations can do it, and we get to impact how things are in the future, that's what's going to make the change, right? Like, our voices need to be heard, and it's great that it's being heard on this platform, but it needs to be heard everywhere too.
Absolutely. Roshni, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I've been having these conversations, like, because within the Indian community, anti-Blackness runs deep, and it's like little things like, don't go out in the sun, you'll become too dark. You know, there's colorism also involved too, and I'm having these conversations and telling, like, if I hang out with a family member or something is said, and I'm like, you shouldn't say that. That's not right, you know, and why it's not right. And, you know, it's not easy. It's not like you just tell them it's not right and they're going to listen to you. No, you have to do the work, make yourself uncomfortable. That person's going to be uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable, even calling out my parents, you know, it's very uncomfortable. You know, you grow up with your parents and you think that everything they do or say is right. And then when things like this happen, you're just like, no, that's not right. And then you have to have these difficult conversations. But no, having these difficult conversations will go a long way in the future.
Thanks, Roshni. Harper-Grace, did you have anything that you'd like to add?
Sorry, I don't know, I'm reverberating. But I just think I would like everyone to take away from this panel, even though the conversation right now in greater society is about racism, inclusion and diversity and accessibility includes the LGBTQ community, includes disabled community, includes the people who are not neurotypical, and that's not to take away from the importance of racism and anti-racism, but even sitting here on this panel today, I don't feel like I am included because I am a white person and my step stool is diversity and disability. So that's just where I'm at.
Thanks for sharing that, Harper-Grace. We appreciate your honesty. Right. So guys, it looks like it's almost 4 o'clock, and I want to make sure that that we end promptly. I have a question that was shared for Harper-Grace. I'm going to read it. Is that okay? All right. If a meetup is planned with good intentions, but recognizing necessary accommodations may not have been thought of, would it feel supportive if, as part of registration, we ask if any special accommodations are needed? Additionally, in promoting the event, we could request DMs about accessibility concerns to make sure all feel welcome and encouraged that it will be what they need. Would this feel supportive, or would you feel put off by this?
No, that's absolutely something that should be included on a registration form about disability concerns. I think that in that way, you already know going in that someone may have accessibility issues, and you plan your event around that, instead of going in and having to apologize later for someone who may not even be able to enter the building or access the event that you've planned.
Thank you. I know that a lot of this has been generally heavy conversation, so I really appreciate you guys and your transparency and your honesty. And so as a final question, I'm just going to do popcorn style. What do you guys do for self-care to kind of help you, you know, release all of this at the end of the day? I will start with Trish.
Well, I do love my reality shows. I find them mindless. I find them easy. They feel like home. So I do a lot of that. A lot of Bravo watching, and like I do my little hip hop thing every Friday. That brings me joy. It's like a landmark thing that I look for, because it's important not only to care for yourself but also have something to look forward to. Because yeah, you can soothe at the end of the day, but then what makes you want to wake up the next day? You see, so I like having something to look forward to. So that's what's getting me through.
Thanks, Trish. Roshni?
My answer is very basic. I really value skincare. Like, I wake up and I'm excited to wash my face, and at the end of the day, I'm excited to wash my face at night. I was about this like before chemo, and even after chemo, I noticed like a lot of skin changes, and I was like, I need to get my skin back to how I want it to be. So I really started investing in my skin routine, and it gets me really excited. I like double cleanse, I put oil on my face, I do a mask, and like I just love it. It like, I don't know why it's so thrilling to me, but like it's just something that calms me down. As soon as I wash everything off my face, I have a sense of relief. I don't know what it is about it.
That's good. Good. Thanks, Roshni. Shirley?
I'm with Trish. You know, mindless TV is a good one. Also, my one iced coffee a day and exercise. I do a lot of walking. Some days it's 4 miles, some days it's 1, but I feel like I've got to get out there and just walk it all off, whatever's going on.
That's good. Thanks, Shirley. Angie?
Me and my kids, every night we put on the cooking show, the kids cooking show, or like the dessert ones, and we watch it. And then the next day some days we try to redo it and we make a big mess, but it's the best part of my night. It's like the first time you just like put everything down and you just relax, and you like, I hear them laugh, and it's like the best part of the whole day, because you get mad at them all day, and I'm yelling with virtual schooling now all day long. And so at night when we're just laughing and in bed, and for a few minutes, you just like forget about your day, and that's great. It's fun. Yeah.
Thanks. Harper-Grace?
Yeah, so I am a registered yoga teacher, and so I like to begin and end my day with a short yoga and meditation practice. That always helps ground me. And so one of our fellow Breasties, Paige, she makes these beautiful malas, and she made this one for me, and I wear it all the time. And that also helps ground me. It's all about balancing your emotions. So if you need a mala, find Paige.
Thanks, Harper-Grace. So to our lovely panelists, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. Your honesty and transparency has been welcome, and I know that it's been enlightening for me, so I hope that it's definitely enlightened others that were listening. So thank you for holding space in your hearts for such an important conversation. For those guys that are listening, the work has already started, so grab a shovel and begin. So we'll do it together, one day at a time. And as the panel says, we are stronger together. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great week. Happy Camp Breasties.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good job.